What is up, everybody? It is Brian with First Shot Tactical, back with another video for you here today. And today we are doing a quick unboxing and how to install for the AR internal carrier, or also known as the ARIC, from Law Tactical. So let's go ahead, let's start with the unboxing, see what all comes with it here. The first thing is the user manual, and you can see all the red print here. You want to make sure and watch all these videos on the install. Brownells has one, but obviously you're watching this, so hopefully this one's helpful from that extent. But you definitely want to make sure and watch all the videos, including this one that you're watching now, to make sure this gets set up properly. This isn't quite the plug-and-play application like a normal bolt carrier group. As you can see, it's a different component, different mechanisms, so you want to make sure you install this properly to have the best success when using this. So we got our instructions there. We'll set those aside here, and then we do have all of the foam protection, little sheet here, and then here we go. Here's the actual ARIC, which is the bolt carrier group, and the springs you can see here, and then the rear piece as well. So taking a closer look at it, the one thing to point out is there are two different versions of the ARIC that you can pick up from Law Tactical. Mine is the C version, indicated by the C right here, but there's also a M version. The difference between the two is the C is for if you're running your AR unsuppressed. This is the bolt carrier group, the C model, that you will want to pick up that will work for unsuppressed shooting. However, if you have a suppressor on your AR and want to run it suppressed all the time, you will need to pick up the M model instead of the C model. So C is for unsuppressed shooting, M is your suppressed shooting gun. So that being said, again, I do have the C model, so I'm going to be running my AR unsuppressed with the ARIC in it. The other thing to note here on top is you can see all this yellow stuff here, and this is actually a sealer. They don't want you messing with these. They have these torqued down to the right specifications. Don't try and untorque these, retorque them or anything. You run into some issues. So they put the sealer on there for a reason. Do not mess with it. All the front portion here is just like your normal bolt carrier group that you have in your any other AR, where you can pull that out. This guy will pop out. The firing pin will fall out, and you can actually pull the bolt out as well. And it's pretty typical as far as cleaning that you would do for it. The difference though is the rear end here. As you can see, we have the springs on the rods here, and then you have this cup at the end that'll feed into the rear of our AR. So that way this all reciprocates without going into a buffer tube, so you can shoot it while it's folded with your Law Tactical folder. All right, so let's go ahead and begin the install here. As you can see, I have my AR set up here, and I do have the Law Tactical Gen 3 folder on this guy here. First thing you want to do, remove your bolt carrier group, as well as I have it set aside here. They have that extension piece that you would run with your folder. You got to pop that off, get your bolt carrier out, and then as well the charging handle for right now that you see is removed. And then also the thing with the ARIC is you don't need to run it with the buffer spring, because this is pointless now. So we're gonna go ahead and remove the buffer and spring in here, because we no longer need that. All right, with the buffer and spring out, we can go ahead and fold this guy over for now. And now we're gonna focus on the rear section here to get the ARIC in. Before we go ahead and install it, the next thing we need to do is lube this bad boy up. You can see this thing is dry as a bone from the factory, and obviously just like any other bolt carrier group, you want to lube it up before putting it in. And with the ARIC, you will have the best success with this guy very heavily lubed up. So we're going to lube it up in all the normal spots on the front with the bolt carrier group like you typically would, but then we're also going to put some lube on the springs and the rods that these go on, the guide rods, and then we're going to also get the cup here as well. So be very generous with your lubrication. Let's go ahead and do that now. The lubrication I'm using, they don't recommend a specific brand or anything, but I like this one here. This is from Liquid Drip. It's a gun lubricant. They also have a gun cleaner. It smells super good. So if you're looking for some gun lubrication you need, go ahead and check out Liquid Drip. They have some great stuff. The other thing to note is this rear cup here. It'll come off very easily because it just sits in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove it. And again, we wanna lube up all those springs and the rods there. So I'm gonna do that underneath as well. All right, perfect. With all of that lubed up, we're about ready to install this. The next thing we want to do to make sure, since this is a new bolt carrier group and a new operating system in your AR, is we do want to make sure that the headspace up here is cleaned out real good. So I actually went and took a cleaning brush with a wire brush on it, typically what I use to clean the bore here, and I cleaned out the headspace there where the bolt carrier goes and connects in. So clean that out real good, especially if you have a pretty dirty AR, because again, this is a new bolt, this is a used upper, so we want to make sure we have the best matching parts by having that cleaned out, so this will fit perfectly up in there. So clean that guy out good. So now with your headspace all cleaned out on your upper, and you have your rear and no buffer tube in here, and your ARIC is all lubed up very heavily, the next thing we're gonna do is we gotta check fitment here. So we're gonna take this rear cup piece here, and we wanna have this, I guess, little detent or part that sticks out. This faces upwards. And what we wanna make sure and do here is with our Law Tactical folder on here, is we wanna make sure that this operates freely within our folding mechanism. So to check this, as you saw, I just pushed this button here and I'm pushing this back and forth, and you see it moves very freely. However, sometimes depending on how tight you had this tension screw here, you will need to back this out a little bit. Otherwise, it'll look like this, where it'll just get stuck here and it won't move any further, and we need this to move freely. So again, if yours is stuck while installing, take your Allen wrench here, loosen that tension screw here, and then that will solve your issue, and this will move freely within the folder. Perfect, so now that we know the fitment here is good, we can go ahead and remove this piece, and I'm gonna reinstall the upper, and we're ready to do the final assembly to actually put the bolt carrier in. So to put our ARIC back together, we wanna put our cup back on, and you can see that detent right here. We wanna make sure that's facing upwards, the same way as the gas key up here at the top. And then we're ready to go ahead and install this. I have the charging handle started there. Make sure this section's pulled forward. We can go ahead and line it up, install it just like you would a normal bolt carrier group, like so. And then from here, this is where it might be a little bit tricky because we got to try and get this guy down into this section here. So I like to use your thumb here, push this back, and we want to make sure that cup stays facing upwards so it does fit. Push it down, get it started. You can see it started now, and then push it all the way down like so. Put our rear takedown pin back in, and the last step here then to finish the install is we need to push this button here, because then our cup is going to come out the rear. So I'm going to push that button, and you can see now the cup is sticking out the rear, and now we should be good to go. So then from there, your actual setup and the parts are in, but I can't stress enough that this guy needs to be heavily lubricated, especially at the beginning. They do mention having a break-in period with these, because again, you got to think of it this way. This is a AR-15 that normally has a full buffer system, and this is a new component being entered into a different system, so it operates a little bit differently now. From there, the only other thing before you head to the range I would recommend is giving this guy a couple tugs with all that lubrication in there, because this will help that break-in, making sure that everything is functioning back and forth properly. So that way, again, when you hit the range, this works flawlessly, and you shouldn't have any issues then. I honestly probably just sat here and did that about 50 times off camera. Again, adding some more lube inside, just doing that, I think that'll help. So that way when we go to the range, this system should run just fine. Wrapping things up, and just to reiterate again, heavy lube, that's gonna be your friend on this guy. And then as well on the inside, making sure that cup fitment was correct as far as that tension screw and that cup did move freely. And then also once you do have it installed, hitting this button here, so that way this rear cup is exposed as well. Other than that, you're good to go. I'm excited to get this guy to the range here. You're gonna be able to actually shoot it with the folder in here, not just one round, but multiple rounds. And then at any time, go ahead and pop that guy out, and then you have your stock there ready to go. Hopefully this was helpful. If it was, like and subscribe to the channel. Always appreciate that. And if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. I'm always happy to help. Until next time, have fun shooting, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.